Yes, 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 yes. Finally, after sitting in coach all week long, eating croutons and crackers, I've been upgraded to first class and I'm dining on wine and caviar. A really sweet day. Finally. I mean, we've had green days all week, but they've been just small. I've been talking about it. And finally today, we got two really nice, sizable trades. And Netflix for $7. $7 a share on Netflix. So that's pretty good. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up, guys, is because we've been talking about it all week, that certain times that you go through periods of the month, week, days, whatever it is, you're going to go through these peaks and valleys. And the difference between what a professional trader does and the amateur is how they handle that valley. You know, there's times where the market just doesn't give you what you're looking for. The stocks don't give you the range that you need to really make the big money. And a pro recognizes that and just sits back, waits for the right opportunity. Remember, it's all about patience, waiting for the right opportunity, and then striking while the iron is hot, right when that opportunity arises. Whereas an amateur has a tendency to force trades, trying to make things happen, trying to hit daily goals, and that's why we do what we want. So let's make the official intro. What a great way to end the week. Stock market mutterings for the 12th. So we'll go through those briefly, the trades that we had, and then we'll talk about this market because we saw some pretty wild stuff all day long. I mean, the volatility is just off the charts, and I know for some of you, this is going to be the first time that you're going through something like this where the stocks that you normally trade may have a $1 to $2 range, and now they have a $10 range or something like that, or the market's just making these wild whipsaw back and forth moves, and that's common in a situation like this where you have such a hefty sell-off. The market's going to take a little bit of time. Go back and look at February, a lot of the data back then, and just see how the days after that initial flush down into the 200 moving average worked out. But we'll get into that in a second. The big one was obviously Netflix here. And the thing with Netflix is I started out today with thinking the last thing I wanted to see was exactly what I saw this morning, which was a gap up. I've been talking about this big rally happening all week, and I knew we had something in store, but it would be better to see that buying take place on an intraday level. Now, some of you new people may want to ask, why is that? That's because you can catch it. So, for example, if the market flushes down 500-600 points, and a lot of these stocks flush out, and then starts to go back red to green, you can catch these moves because it's intraday. It's happening right in front of your face. You can get some nice alerts, and you possibly can catch some really big range moves, possibly a red to green. Again, we've been talking about that, all week long. Maybe a stock going down $10 to $15 like a Netflix, reversing the long, getting long on it, maybe having it retrace all the way back to green and then adding $4 or $5. It's happened before, and that's kind of in this scenario what we were really wanting to happen. The problem that happens with a gap up is that puts you in a different position to start the day. So us going in saying, look, we want to see this big flush out, get long stuff like Apple, Netflix, Google, or whatever we're trading there. We'll just stick with Netflix here. Saying that you want to get that for that red to green move. Then what happens is the market gaps up and you're already +9, +10 before the day even starts. So judging the way the market's acted for the last week, how can you really look at it and go, oh yeah, I trust this one. I trust this breakout for sure. You just can't. I mean, maybe they work out for you. Maybe you can trust them. But throughout my experience and through the 2 decades I've been doing this, I just don't get involved in that because I get smoked when that happens. So it just really takes away that upper area. Now, one of the things I mentioned not too long ago in a whiteboard, maybe when I re-edit this, I'll put the link in there. If not, just search the YouTube channel. You'll find it. It was about what traders look for, and one of them is the value. We talked about that before. Where's the value in today? Is the value going to be longing the positions, or is the value going to be shorting the positions, or are we going to be stuck in this range? Where is that? So the value that we had been thinking of for the last few days was flush us out, the values to the long side on a bounce. Well, now you gapped up the market and you took that away. Now we have to flip that bias and move to the short side. So this is exactly what we did with Netflix. We let things settle down a little bit at the open to see if some of these held. Then once it started ripping up here through high a day, I just said, look, I don't want to underestimate the power of how this rally could be. I don't want to get into that. I mean, I know we've been down thousands of points here on the market. We could easily rally 500. But when I was looking across the board, the market was only up, like the Dow was up about 100 points, NASDAQ 60, 70 or something like that. You felt with everything gapping up, those numbers should be higher, and they weren't. And a lot of this stuff started to pull in, so we just started into a nice little short, and you know, it was like, let's give it a shot. I really think this is going to happen. And then it really rolls over. It didn't cover. I covered at 330 on the last piece. You can see from the brokerage statement I put up there, the entries. I covered it. I took half of it off somewhere around, I think it was 335 or something, 334, and then the rest of it down at 3. I mean, a damn near bottom ticked it. And look what happened. I mean, look what happened late in the day. The damn thing rallied. I mean, obviously it would have been great if I would have flipped it, and then closed it, because it ends up back up where the whole short started in the first place. But that thing total went for $7 a share. Now, again, this is the type of environment that you're in and how a day trader or a short-term trader views the market. We're not really concerned about, hey, where we end up. It's just a matter of what's going to happen in the next 20 or 30 minutes. You can see that range there is that, you know, you could be short in the morning, long in the afternoon, long in the morning, short in the afternoon. So this was a good one. Now, once things started to fade again, there was a period of time that I also want to touch on. Roku was the other really, really nice trade. Now, I obviously I covered up this one at 60. Could have held it a little bit longer, obviously. But I went ahead and took the money. I had some size on this trade. And one of the things that we were seeing here was that when the market made the gap up, and remember, patience is your friend, guys. Patience is what makes you rich in this business, because if you don't have a clue, and I'm not going to sit here and say that every single minute of every single day that the market is open, I know exactly what's going to happen and I have a clue. There's many times I don't have a freaking clue at all. Most of the time, I don't have a clue. I don't know where it's going. I need data. I need information. So again, to kind of go back to the beginning, it doesn't matter what you traded. If you pull up 100 stocks, 95 of them are going to have the same identical type of pattern to them. The thing with us today, we talked about in our pre-market, and this is why it helps being in the trade room, man. If you're not in there, it's why you need to be in there. We were talking about, let this thing play out. I am not going to be the first person in the morning to buy into these greens after all of the wipeouts, after all of the sell-offs that we've had in the last week. No way am I going to be, dive into some breakout greens. They're going to have to hold or build or do something to, give me confidence, because I'm not into it. Now, if they get away, I'll short them, and that's what ended up happening. And as these things went vert, that's the approach that we took. And one of the things that we were seeing was that every move on a lot of these other stocks were just getting stuffed. Things were just going down and getting pulled, and then the market starts going from, like, it starts up at 250, I think, when we got up this morning, 250 points the Dow. And then it's down to 100, and then it's down to 50. And by that time, you're like, this thing is going to go red, and everything's going with it. It just is not what the bulls want to see. Again, the common sense that we talked about in yesterday's mutterings. It's just the common sense is telling you, man, look, they're selling everything in front of your face. You got to get short. And that worked out. Again, with the volatility, though, impressive close. Impressive close. So what an up and down week, but what a hell of a way to end the week. So let's move on. Let's talk about what are we going to see here next week. Now, the volatility is going to be here to stay. Let me pull up the SPY. If you're looking at some of those other trades I had on there, just for full disclosure, I sold LULU for $1 gain. I had that 3 days ago, so I was a little underwater on that. And I tried some of this. Let me go back here, because I want to mention the losers too. I tried this AMRN today because it looked like a really good bright spot out of all of these, and the daily chart was real nice. And I've been talking about this thing all week. And, it broke out there on the daily chart, and you know what? It just didn't get going. It just didn't do it. I mean, the chart was there. If I saw this thing a dozen more times, I would take it. I had a good feeling about it, but by the end of the day, it just kept falling apart and just wouldn't bounce. So that was my only loser. Had nice wins, big wins on Roku and Netflix, small one on LULU, and I guess it's a medium loss on AMRN. So nice way to end a week. Now let me get back to what I was saying. Let me get back to the mutter of this market. Okay, what are we going to do? What are we going to do starting on Monday? Let's start with the bad. We'll do the bad, and then we'll do the good. The bad. The market should not have sold off so damn much today. That was ripe. I mean, you had a golden opportunity to really press on early and just nail this, but that didn't happen and it faded. Good news is it didn't get into yesterday's low. So if you remember, I got the stuff drawn over here, upper chart, where I said this market's got to hold 272. This is really, really important. Good that it didn't lose that. And then good that late day here, you got a pretty strong press into the close. I had kind of thought we'd see more selling into the close because I was like, who in the hell wants to initiate positions on a weekend when you've got 2 days that anything can happen and all this other stuff has happened. So that's the way it went. That's the way it went. Now, if you look at the daily chart, maybe another good thing is that 200 moving average came back into play. Just closed underneath of that. So that's pretty good right there. That's pretty good. So let's talk about going forward, what we can expect. First, that volatility is going to stay. If you go back and you look at February, I brought this chart up a couple days ago. This is what happened back in February when the market had its correction into the 200 moving average. You had supreme volatility here all throughout this area. And after it really found the bottom, it was still volatile for about 5 or 6 days. So I expect the volatility to continue throughout the rest of next week. That's just the way this stuff works when the market gets hit like this. So if we're able to hold that, let's just use that 200 moving average right now as a guide. If the market can stay above that or around that through the beginning part of the week, you should start to see a trend upwards into some of the huge red day here, around the 280s to 283s. Okay, 280 to 283. It's got to hold up this 200 moving average. I don't expect this to be like a clean read. Oh yeah, there it is. Let's go. Be nice, but I don't think that's going to happen. To the downside, you've really got to pay attention to where it was earlier about this 270 now, because if you go back, I know this, I think my webcam's covering this up. I'm going to scoot it over here to the far right of the bottom chart. This 269 here, this June lows, you had a few lows right back in here. It's going to have to hold up that. That's your nearest, because if that doesn't stick, then you got to go all the way. Then you're going all the way back to February and April before you can find some supports. So let's just deal with that. If we can hold up the 200 moving average early, stay around this area, most specifically above 272s, you might see a short-term relief rally that may, at best case, take you back to the 50 moving average on the daily. I'd think more 280 or somewhere around that. If it loses that area, that is not a good thing. That's not good. And I think you might, if that happens, you might see additional panic. So there's your numbers. There's your lines, upper and lower. I mean, it's at a pivotal point there. And I think at this point, you're going to see a lot of stocks that coincide with the way the market looks there. So, you know, if it goes up, a lot of these stocks are going to go up. If it goes down, a lot of these stocks are going to go down lower. As far as individual names, I don't know if I really have any that are standing out. I mean, this AMRN, I'd give it another shot again. Was a little disappointed with the way that it worked today. And I kind of like NVDA now that it's sitting at its 200-day moving average. I think after all these sell down days, you can get a nice little lift out of this one, possibly back to 260, somewhere in that neighborhood. Again, it's got to get back up above today's high. It never made it back up the opening high. So even though you had this really impressive, strong rally, a lot of these didn't get back up to where they started at the opening, and that's why it's hard to chase greens like that. So that was around 249.50. Came up a couple bucks short of that. Netflix was the same way. Didn't quite get back up to the morning highs. Apple actually did break through. So Apple's chart doesn't look too bad right now for a run back to 225 in the short term. Again, anything right now is just a trade. You know, it would be real hard to sit on a swing trade right now and just hold it if your overall thought was let's drawdowns and make good big money. I don't see how you could hold something for 3 or 4 days. God knows what might happen to it at any minute. The market's going to be a little sketchy. It's going to be a little volatile. But as I said, you know, the thing I want you to take away from this week, and it's good that we started doing these mutterings daily, especially at this time when the market got freaky, because I know a lot of people that's been trading for shorter periods of time, last few years, you know, basically go back to 2010, you haven't really seen stuff like this. You haven't been in a volatile market. Now, I come from a time where it used to be like this every day almost, it felt like, but you got to see how this stuff works out. And your biggest friend right now is being patient, waiting for the right entries, trading smaller share size, and just take what the market gives you. I mean, some days that's going to be a couple bucks. Don't worry about it. Just take it. But if you stay patient, like it will be, I mean, today, it'll be like today. We had 4 days of small gains, just kind of pulling teeth, getting what we could get. And then all of a sudden here on a Friday, huge day. It blew by everything that we made the entire week. So you just never know. You never know. The market's open. You never know what's going to happen. You never know what the next day is going to bring. Doesn't matter what you did today. You never know how Monday's going to treat you, or Tuesday. You know, the sun will rise and the market will open. So anyway, I want you guys to enjoy the rest of your weekend. Don't forget, visit thelincolnlist.com, click on the Trade Room tab. You can start trading with us Monday. We'll walk you through this market the best we can and try to provide you with some quality trading opportunities. Until Monday, guys, enjoy the weekend. Thanks for watching this video. Take care.